Am I audible?
Okay.
Yeah, sure, Faisal, you can go ahead. No worries.
Yeah, so am I audible?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, I think this is the first meeting that I'm attending where I'm talking. I guess interactive. I previously attended the developers meeting, and yeah, I guess I was introduced to Meshery, I guess, a long time ago when I was applying to LFX, and I guess I didn't get a lot of time back then to contribute or have a go through all the repositories. But I guess I think starting from this week I started getting real interest in the Wasm repo, Wasm filters, and I'm trying to actively contribute to that repo as well as learn about Envoy filters. So yeah, that's about me and Meshery. And about me, I guess I like coding in Rust, and currently I'm in my final year at Presidency University, specializing in computer science. So yeah, that's it about me.
Really nice to meet you. Okay, so who do we have next? I think Abhishek, you're new. Do you want to go next?
Audible?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Abhishek Jamoria, and I'm pursuing my BTech degree from IIT Jodhpur. And the tech stack in which I work is MERN stack. I also know C, C++, and Python. And I'm new here. I haven't contributed yet. Oh, this is all about me.
Well, we have a lot of projects for you to get started contributing it. So I hope you find your area of interest soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So who wants to go next?
Maybe I can go.
Yeah, sure.
Hey everyone, my name is Kunal Verma and I'm a sophomore from India. I started getting involved in the open source and communities from the last year, and I've learned a lot and met some amazing people. So yeah, I got to introduce to DevOps and cloud native space recently, and have been exploring various communities and trying to learn the technologies there because I became really passionate about the technologies and the ecosystem, and recently got to know about the layer 5 community and received a really warm welcome when I joined in. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, really excited to learn and contribute here, and glad to meet you all. Thank you.
We're glad to have you here. Okay, so Uttam, you raised your hand. You want to go next?
Yeah. So my name is Uttam and I'm also a sophomore from India and currently pursuing bachelor's in computer science and engineering from Chandigarh University. And I'm exploring DevOps and I'm really enjoying it, implementing some practical stuff and contributing to open source software. Apart from that, I have contributed to few open source softwares like Moza Global and Kubernetes itself. Okay, so and recently I won Cloud Native Hackathon. So that is pretty much about me. Okay. So.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to introduce themselves?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Rudra Prashad Das. Basically, I'm from biomedical engineering from NIT Rourkela, and I have experience in machine learning and deep learning stuff, and I wanted to do a mentorship in LFX. I like the LFX mentorship programs, and I got to know about it in this. In this mid of September, so I applied it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to contribute to Meshery. I haven't started it anything, but I'm going through the repos, and yeah, I guess I pretty soon will be contributing toward it in it.
We have a lot of resources for you to go through if you want to learn about Meshery more. So you go through them, and I'm pretty sure you'll find somewhere where you can start.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Unnati, do you want to go next? We'll have Nikhil after that.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
So hi everyone, I am Unnati, currently a pre-final year student at IGT2W from Delhi, India. I am in past LFX community from Open Horizon, and I have been a part of various communities, and I'm founder of my own community, which is Codex Script. So that's about me. And I love to be a part of this Layer5 community and hope to contribute to some website issues as well. So glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nikhil, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I am Nikhil, third year computer science student. So currently I'm learning Go and Kubernetes. So looking forward to contributing Meshery in the backend side. Yeah.
Have we covered all the newcomers? Is there anyone else left? I guess not. So, like I said, we have a lot of newcomers, and it was really nice to get to know all of you. We have an announcement. Lee, would you like to go ahead with that?
Yes. Yeah. Shoot. One moment. Boy, someone, it's Friday. I don't know. It would be a better excuse if it was Monday. One of us didn't finish their homework. And that just happens to be me. Are we sure there's no one else new on the call? Because I'm like so close to being done with my homework. Okay.
We can come back to you later. We can start with the minutes.
Oh, I got it. I got it just now. Great. So nice. Good. By the way, so if everyone isn't aware of this by now, if you weren't paying attention to the thick layer of sarcasm that Faisal is the recipient of, you're all aware by now that there's a lot of sarcasm that goes around in the community. So I suppose I don't generally say this, but I think it's just understood. Hey, if you're dishing out the sarcasm, it's just your fair game. So at this point, like I think anyone could take a pot shot at me. I think I probably deserve that. We do have some announcements. We do have some people in the community to celebrate. There's a number of you who've been here for a long time. Some of you are starting to show some white in your facial hair as well. And some of you don't have facial hair, which is really nice. Speaking of those, Deborah Priya doesn't have facial hair. That's what we wanted to announce today. Rather, what we wanted to announce was Deborah Priya is joining as an LFX intern. Joining is the wrong term. Deborah Priya is putting on that hat. She's already worn a few hats in the community. We're asking her to do more. She's doing some fantastic work in a number of different areas, and she's hosting today's call. So the first call of 2022. We have Manav Kapoor. Manav, refresh my memory. It's IIT Jodhpur. That's where you're currently studying? Just to put him on the spot. He'll tell me if I'm wrong. Then we also have meshmate Aditya Chatterjee, who is putting on yet another hat. So we've got about 4 interns starting. Well, like the reality is this is kind of they're starting their internships today. The reality is they sort of started their internships a while ago. Like if you ask them, they've been hard at the keyboard for some time. And I was just telling them that that's how internships are earned. A number of you have inquired about internships. And if you read the FAQs out on the Layer5 IO site, you'll have noted that it should say something like, just go do it. Like there's tons of things to do. There's more internships to hand out than there are mentors to mentor people. Some of you are former mentees, now turned mentor, like Nitish Karthik, who's now wearing that hat as an LFX mentor. So there's kind of a lot in there. It was a celebration of those that are now officially interning, including Gaurav Chadha, who I wasn't going to skip over. I just saved the best for last. And so Gaurav, you've seen him in the Meshery repo. You've seen him in the Layer5 repo. You've seen him in I'm not sure it's all 70 of the repos that we have here, but you've seen him in a lot of them. He's been around for a while, and it's essentially an eventuality. If you are willing to put up with terrible jokes for as long as he is, you get yourself an internship. And so Gaurav is starting off as a Layer 5 intern. So anyway, yeah, so there's a lot to unpack, the announcements and the celebratory moment for each of these individuals. Welcome to indentured servitude. Your fingertips are ours for the next 3 months. The other thing that's kind of packed in there is, well, if you kind of caught part of the backstory of each of these individuals, they're not new names. They've been here a while. Like, they enjoy the projects. They laugh at corny jokes. They are learning things. They're sharing things. They're sort of culturally aligned with the values here. They're paying it forward with others. Some of you might have gotten questions answered from them. Some of you might have answered their questions. There's a lot of bi-directional learning that goes on. I'm learning how to do my homework in advance, hopefully. But everybody's here learning. And there's a lot of people out there just too scared to admit it. And it's a shame. Pride is an ugly thing. We just don't have much pride here. Or no, that's not it. We actually do take a lot of pride in the software. So if you're receiving feedback on your PRs, if you're receiving feedback on your ideas, they're generally warmly embraced. They're always warmly embraced. If they're getting critical feedback and you're receiving that, count your blessings. Because one, you'll be a better engineer, community manager, writer, coder, whatever you're here doing, you'll be better at it. It's when you don't get feedback that is a bummer, because then you're not learning, you're not growing. So anyway, lots of things in there. Congrats to Manav, Debalpriya, Aditya, Gaurav, and Nitish. It's going to be a heck of a 2022. Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, so we'll begin with our topics. So first off, we have this brand new custom Zoom backgrounds, which I already see Uttam and Faisal putting on. So you guys can, I've attached the link here. You can download it and you can use it in any of the meetings that you attend. These look really pretty, so you can go ahead and download them right now. Probably use them in this meeting itself. Right. So next up, as you all know, we have the newcomers call scheduled every Thursday. Now, there are a lot of tutorial requests which we store in this spreadsheet. So we have had a couple of tutorials till date, and the recordings will be available on our YouTube channel, and we plan to have way more. So if you have any requests or any suggestions on what the topic should be for the next tutorial, you can add it on over here, and we'll look for people to organize them for you. So not only newcomers, anyone who wishes to learn about any other domain than you're already working on, you can add the list over here. Right. So moving on, we'll have like this call, since this is the first call of the year, we'll have a brief overview of what activities we have planned throughout the year. You guys can take part in it, add your suggestions. These are just a couple of what we have in store. There are a lot more. So I think I have to call Lee again to talk about the service mesh playground, which is very interesting. Like, I was very impressed with this. So Lee, over to you.
Oh, great. Good. I get to be the, hey, more bad jokes. So I was just trying to harass Faisal again. I'm gonna and it didn't quite work out, but that's just a beaut. Oh, Uttam's rocking the white background. All right. Yeah. I wasn't sure people were going to necessarily admit, and it looks good. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the fact that there's this beautiful logo in the background, but anyway, good. All right, fair enough. Thanks for letting me poke at people. Okay, so speaking of a slight lack of homework. I'm going to pull up, well, you know what I'm going to do is pull up an app that I don't have up. It is Figma. I think it's Figma. There's this, for some of you, we just talked a little bit about LFX. Sometimes we talk about LFX. Sometimes we generally talk about a bunch of other things. The reason I'm going to mention LFX again is because this next project is articulated as an LFX project, but so too are many of the things that we do here. One of those projects is this concept of a service mesh playground. So most of the world, 93% of the world doesn't know what a service mesh is. That percentage is decreasing month over month, but it'll still be at like 70%. Actually, if you say most of the world, like it'll be 90% forever, right? But those that are within the technology space of that sector of the world, like there's still most of us who don't know what these things are and how capable they are and what they can do. And yes, if you're seeing basically a blank screen, that's intentional. And so that means that there's a lot of learning to go on. A lot of people need to come to understand what the heck a service mesh is, why would I use it, what's going wrong in my environment, and how can I fix that? You know, how do I know that I'm operating a service mesh well? How can I get the most value out of it? How do I have it do more work so I can do less? That's a question I think many people should be asking as they're deploying a mesh. A lot of people aren't taking full advantage. For sure, they're not. Now, part of where we're going to talk about Faisal, I think, this entire meeting. So part of what I was attempting to harass him on was part of his kind of prior focus toward, toward some technologies around WebAssembly filters, towards WebAssembly, towards eBPF. And the notion that there's a lot that you can do when you're processing network packets. Like it's part of the reason that I left Cisco some time ago was out of frustration for not doing more with the network. When all of these packets are traversing the network, you can, and you're the thing that's processing them, you can stop them, crack them open, introspect them, read people's email in them, and then pass them along. Like there's a lot that you can do with them. You can do a lot of stuff. And actually, literally, you could do that. You could read someone's email, or you could change the name of the from address and say it was from the president, and then send it to him. Those things are possible. You want to do that in a very performant way so that you're not, well, with respect to email, as an example, like I'm going totally off the rails here, but like for email, it wouldn't really matter. It's asynchronous, right? Like you could inject a bit of delay and people wouldn't necessarily notice. Anyway, for real-time systems where you're expecting real-time responses, you want your network to be highly performant. So if you're doing a lot with it and you're manipulating packets, you want to do that very efficiently. Hence why we have a project called Service Mesh Performance, so that people can do these very interesting and powerful things with the network and do them understanding the overhead that's involved. Okay, what does that have to do with the Service Mesh Playground? Well, as people go to explore what is possible with the network, what is possible with the service mesh, they need a playground to do it in. And like I was saying earlier, most of us are still actually, is it Deborah? I'm just going to mute you for a moment, and feel free to unmute at any point, just in case there's a, so part of Meshry's mission from the beginning has been to help people understand service meshes. We were giving a lot of workshops, teaching people. People kept asking, which service mesh should I use? So it's one of the reasons why we built Meshry, and why hopefully many of you are now building Meshry. And so when I start to say we, you include yourself in that. We talked to the Linux Foundation a few times about creating some service mesh certifications, kind of similar to what you find for like the Kubernetes certifications that people get. And people need like tools to use to do that training if they are going to certify. So hopefully you're getting part of the theme of what I'm trying to communicate, which has to do with the concept of a service mesh playground. I don't know where the images are. Let's go in and into Lee's Slack. Let's take a look at all of the private messages that Lee sends. And we'll go over to websites and oops. And take a look at some of these mockups that were put in the websites channel. So you all can go back in history and find them there. I don't remember what tool we used to generate these. But so one of the projects that we'd like to do is take and run a hosted version of Meshry. Meshry is capable of orchestrating, well, currently 10, but soon 11. Some of you are working on another adapter, soon 11 service meshes. And so it's really a fantastic tool for people to come over and learn how these things work. Meshry includes some sample content, so sample applications, sample WebAssembly filters, sample patterns, service mesh patterns. Some of you have heard us talk about service mesh patterns a lot. And if you haven't, then you will, because service mesh patterns are going to be a big thing for Meshry and a big thing for how people can understand if they're doing it right. Like if they have their retries set correctly, if they have their circuit breakers set too sensitively. It's like, hey, they should probably identify, go over and source from a pattern and use from there. And that's what this community is producing, is service mesh patterns. So if we're running a hosted version of Meshry, people can come over, learn any of these service meshes. They can learn about the other technologies that I just prattled off. The notion is that this would be probably something like either, it depends on what all is involved, but something like play.meshry.io, very similar to playing with Docker or Kubernetes. So what is it, playwithkubernetes.com, playwithdocker.com. That's in part actually where Meshry got its start, where we were doing some of our first workshops was within those environments like playwithdocker.com. And so if we host a version of Meshry, people can come sign in. They can go through the learning paths that some of you on the call have created, the learning paths that you can go take now. These learning paths include interactive labs that one of the Adityas is Mr. Subedi is currently kind of championing the effort around. There's interactive labs that we have out here that you can go through, but these learning paths are line up those labs into a series of courses and then a series of chapters that you go through to learn your mesh of choice. Right now, the first learning path, you can take it and walk through each of these chapters, learning one mesh or learning the other mesh. And we need to add more content here for the rest of the meshes. But as you're learning it, there will be the occasional embedded lab that runs on Katakoda's systems that's kind of temporary. We want to do a lot more than what that environment can afford. Right? And so if we have a service mesh playground, that part of this curriculum can integrate with that playground and people can walk through it real time and perform these steps. I'm going to try to impart one more concept to you all on this as an upcoming project, the Service Mesh Playground. So, well, yeah. So I'll try to. So right now I'm on Layer5.io. It's a website. 250 something of you have contributed to it. Thank you. The website, runs on some infrastructure. It wasn't too long ago. One of our Nigerian community members had said, "There's a lot of white on this page. Like, wouldn't it be nice if there was a dark mode?" So, yeah. Like what developer, what engineer, what nerd doesn't like a dark mode? Yeah, please. And so he went off and did it. The thing is like if this website is running on a service mesh, You could get dark mode for free. You could have the service mesh do it for you. Those kinds of things, as an example, people don't often think about. There's a lot of power inside of a service mesh, inside the network. What better way for people to learn that than actually like the site that they're like the service mesh playground site or the Layer5 IO site that they're learning on, as they're going through and making an update to say that like the user that's logged in, Jason, if that, logged into this site, into the service mesh playground, change their experience, set it to dark mode, or replace this CSS with this CSS, or replace this this style sheet link with this style sheet link. Mesh is certainly any service mesh. Well, most of them, almost any, many of them are capable of doing this with ease. People don't quite get it though. So if the learning system that you're on itself is running on a mesh, you can experience, the user can experience that while they're learning and really have a full fidelity experience with a service mesh. So those are some things that we want to do with respect to that playground. I'll be forthright and say, I wasn't necessarily intending to like present the service mesh playground today as like an here and now active project that we're ready to, that there's a bunch of people gung ho to go start. I hope that some of you, as I've described this, that now your nerd juices are flowing and you want to come start on that project. I'll be forthright and say, I don't know that we have enough. We haven't gained critical mass. Like we don't have enough interested people, interested and capable people of moving that project forward at the moment. I'll say this, if enough people are interested in that project, so, and by that project, I mean the Service Mesh Playground project, and enough of you show up, those that are interested, if you show up to Monday's websites meetings, there's a websites call or a front end oriented call that we have every Monday. If enough people show up there wanting to carry it forward, we'll start now. If not, then we'll just keep it on the shelf. So comments or questions on what I was talking about here? There might be a related concept that we were going to talk about. Or by the way, there's no silly comments. There's no silly questions, unless you ask a silly question. No, there's no like. Please ask your questions. I mean, please suggest things. There's a related concept that I'm going to steal. Maybe I'll let Aditya speak to it a little bit later. There's an emergent service mesh catalog that contains a number of patterns that plays into what the content that the service mesh playground might offer to people. So I'm going to put a note here in case we have time. Speaking of time, anybody else have thoughts about what I just said? Comments? If not, maybe we'll see you on Monday to see if that project goes forth right now or if we hold off for just a bit. And then, yeah, and then Uttam is, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. And actually, Uttam, we might even want to recognize like who it is that's generally interested in the stuff that we're doing. Generally, people, engineers, right? Like whatever type of hat you're wearing, engineering hat you're wearing, maybe we should just lean into having dark mode by default. It's like I said, like who doesn't like a dark mode? So, okay, well, with that, funnel some of the discussion that you might have either into Slack or, if you think about it later, or into the Discuss forum. And then I'll maybe hand it back to Debopriya and Manav.
So next up, we have Manav's topic. Manav, he will go ahead with the MeshMap demo. Manav will be sharing the screen.
Hey guys, so here is one of the extensions part of MeshMap. Oh, extension part of Meshri, which is MeshMap. So I'm currently on the visualizer part of the MeshMap. This is basically, to give a context, this is basically visualization of the cluster we have. In my screen, you could see we have different namespaces, and this is a visualization of the cluster. Today, I will mostly present to you other part of visualizer. Which is terminal. So terminal or the log session of a pod. So it's basically whenever you go to a pod, you could start while trying clicking. You could start a session. I think I will just refresh. So either you could start a terminal session or a log session on a pod, where these are two different entities. So if I start a log session, it will spun up a interactive terminal sort of window, which you could drag around the screen. You could minimize it, and I have currently added a feature to resize it as well. You could resize it or push pop it any side, and we could also reduce the size of the side window. And basically could this is a log session of the pod. There are different containers. You could select the container which you want to initiate the log session for, and this is, you could minimize it. It docks itself to the bottom of the tablet, where you could expand it again. You could see how many log sessions or terminal sessions you have. So the second thing, which is this is the log session which I showed, and there's terminal sessions also. So if you are not selecting a pod, you'll get an error message. But if I'm selecting a pod correctly, I will be able to launch the terminal session. And I could query, if I say this is the terminal session, I could query the pod, and I will get a response from it. Yes. So you could query and run terminal sessions on the containers, and different containers, and you could delete a session, could start a session, and again it docks back. So in docking back capability allows us to even explore the cluster as well as run our queries, our experience logs on the container. I guess that's all from my side.
Yeah, so hey, I'll add a couple of things to what Manav was just showing. And so, and that is to say that, well, someone might pop a link to the Meshri architecture deck into the chat. You all have access to, well, a bunch of resources in the community, in the community drive. One of those resources is a slide deck called the Meshri architecture. In that slide deck, there's a single slide that describes Meshri as a platform, as an extensible platform. So Meshri has a variety of extension points that people can build plugins to go into. MeshMap is an example of a plugin. MeshMap is using the power of the rest of Meshri to visualize, to do kind of two core things, two core modes and actually, so that everyone doesn't have to listen to me go on for another 5-10 minutes, is there anyone else that's working on MeshMap that wants to describe the two modes of MeshMap? You know you do. There's like 8 of you on the call.
Yep. So basically we have two different kind of modes in MeshMap. One is the designer and the second one is the visualizer that Manav is currently presenting. So like most of the things Manav have told about the visualizer, that you can visualize many of the namespace pods and kinds. So Manav, could you redirect to designer? Yep. Yep. So here in designer, you can see you can go to components or patterns. Here you can create or configure your patterns or different kind of components that you load on this canvas and all. So if you can drop one of the component, yep. So here you can see that you can configure all the components depending on this particular RJSF schema that we have implemented over here. So yep, it provides all the functionality to design and create and like do whatever you want to do with the patterns, applications, or filters. Like many power to this configurations. Yep, Lee, you can add more to it.
Nice. Yeah. It was. So yeah. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is the ability to visually diagram your Kubernetes environment alongside your application deployments. And then in context, you're able to also describe your service mesh configuration. So I'm just loading up an environment here just to help give an example of that. So in this Meshry deployment, I have one Meshry adapter running just at the moment. It's the Istio adapter, just randomly. And so each of the Istio custom resources, each of the custom resources that Istio has, you're able to, as a user, take, grab, drag and drop into a visual canvas, and then configure the various aspects of, in this case, a virtual service, an Istio virtual service, and visually configure it, line it up to work with the rest of your infrastructure, and deploy it, and save these designs and have them integrated into your Git system, have them deployed. After they're deployed and running, you can switch. So this is the designer mode that we're in right now, in which you're able to manipulate things on the canvas, make a copy of them, edit them, save them, deploy them. You can switch modes then to go into the visualizer mode, which is what Manav was showing just a moment ago. And so I think we're probably using two different environments. He's using one, I'm using a different one. You can basically then in this visualizer mode, this is it's not exactly a read-only interface, but this is a bit more of, this is looking at your actively running infrastructure and what it's doing. And so in my infrastructure, I've got a Meshry namespace. Inside my Meshry namespace, Meshry is running. Mesh sync is running under the Meshry operator. When I click on this node, it tells me what type it is. Depending upon the node type, I might get some additional info. I might be able to take certain actions. And that's what Manav was demonstrating, is the ability, in this case, what he was showing me was the ability to have an interactive terminal session, right through the browser, or to start streaming logs back. So, to use a service mesh specific example, you might have your applications deployed. They've got their sidecar next to each of your apps. Maybe you want to stream back the container logs for the proxy that's sitting right there. Take a look at what's going on. You also then probably going to want to take a lot of, understand a lot of different metrics that are coming through. So Meshry, you're probably already aware, will connect to both Prometheus and Grafana and pull back dashboards, retrieve metrics, that kind of a thing. So anyway, there's a lot going on. A lot of things that Meshry is capable of, and that Meshry is doing, and that a plugin like MeshMap just pulls together into a different experience. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of work by some of you in the community on that plugin. So it's nice to be able to occasionally demo that. Does anybody else just enjoy playing with this right here? Okay, all right. Any other comments or questions, or like the point was there's kind of two modes, designer, visualizer. People that are looking to get involved there, please do go talk to Manav about it. You'll be able to, so part of what was missed, there's just a lot to talk about in there. Part of what was missed is the fact that, well, I mean, Agarov or Manav mentioned it, you can have your service mesh patterns, like, you know, the things that I was alluding to earlier, you can load them up, visualize them, make changes to them in MeshMap, which means that those patterns might describe how you'd use a WebAssembly filter, how you would configure one of those. Eventually an eBPF program as well, we would be managing those. And so lots of stuff to do.
So talking about the patterns, this is what the effort is. Basically, there's a service mesh catalog. So soon enough, we'll be able to import patterns from this to your Meshry environment. So that is also a great effort. We'll continue with, so Lee also talked about the learning paths. Another a great enhancement that we are looking forward to right now in learning paths, you can take any of the courses. So we are planning to add a lot of more chapters and courses to this, and we are looking forward to have certifications so that once you complete a course, you will be certified that you have completed a course. So that is an effort that we are looking forward to this week. So yeah, that is another enhancement. One more thing which we are planning to is a weekly newsletters. So basically you will be informed about, we have a lot of new posts on the website that you have. We have blog posts and resources which you guys can write. So in case you miss out on anything, these weekly newsletters are going to inform you of the new blog posts that the community members have come up with. So if you haven't already, subscribed to our newsletters, so you will receive the daily updates. Another thing which we are working on is the resource library. So this is a work in progress, but soon enough we'll have resources catering to all of these filters. So if you have any questions regarding anything cloud native, hopefully you will find all your answers in here. So this will have blog posts, articles, case studies, tutorials, webinars, a lot of things. So you guys can work for adding resources you want to see in there. We will continue adding resources over here. So this will be a great source of information. Right. So next, I will move on to Aditya and his effort on the catalog. He can speak more about what is expected from this.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead, share my screen. Okay, so I've been working on creating a service mesh catalog. So basically what Lee was talking about with the service mesh playground is you would have an interactive playground where you would be able to launch your patterns or WebAssembly filters. So here we are creating a catalog from where you'd be able to download these patterns or copy its URL so that you can, launch them in the Meshry UI. For example, here I could copy the URL and I think I have Meshry up. And so I could go to Meshry. To patterns. and I hope this works. Okay, yeah, but that's the concept. So you'd be able to copy the URL or download the YAML file from here and then launch them in your Meshry UI. It's an ongoing effort. It's not completely ready. We just completed working on the filters inside here. Yeah, and so we're also in an open need to create these patterns that go on here. That's why we have written them down, but they have this coming soon overlay. It's because we don't have the pattern graphic to display them. So if somebody is willing to, somebody who is talented in that way, who can create such patterns, you guys are more than welcome to try your hand at Figma. Lee, anything that I missed?
Just it's I don't know how many people are aware of this. There's a book being authored on this subject, and so I just dropped a link into Zoom about the Service Mesh Patterns book. So actually, if you go make a pattern, it's possible your pattern will show up in that book. The book itself is in early release. And again, there's a URL in the Zoom chat, but it just for those that have contributed to or are thinking about working on Meshry, the second chapter in the book, that's all it is. It just talks about Meshry and how to use Meshry to import and understand all these patterns. And so hopefully that import button works at some point. No, I'm just. But yeah. So there's a ton of things for you all. Like if you're not already involved in these things, there's a ton of things to go get involved in. We're not like I didn't mention the playground, or we're not talking about the catalog. We're not talking about the book as in a narcissistic way of just like, or an egotistical way of just talking about all the great things that some of you are already doing. Really, we're discussing these things so that you're aware that there's like any number of ways to go engage. I've invited 2 people to be co-authors on the Service Mesh Patterns book already, and it's not enough. Like, we're not getting it done. So there's opportunities there. They're very real. So, hey, by the way, hey, by the way, since we're just like, 9 minutes out, ask your questions, signal where your interests are. We run, 4 or 5 websites using Jekyll. Why? Because it's the best framework out there. No, I'm just kidding. No, why do we run it on Jekyll? Because like it's just built in to GitHub pages, and you need to do it for free. And like, can you use other frameworks there? Yes. And are there better frameworks? Yes. And is Jekyll, well, for every person that's not running Windows, is Jekyll easy to use? Yeah. So that's kind of why we started it. And so we just kind of kept going. And eventually you have a few sites, and then you kind of build up economies of scope around understanding how that particular framework works. For the Layer5 IO site, it needed to grow much bigger. And so who was it? Was it Meshmate of the Year last year? Nikhil Latha? It was him and some other folks that had helped us land on Gatsby as the framework that's being used here. And then it was like a lot of other folks that actually built out this site, and it's beautiful. Okay, so I digress. What I was going to say is there's a number of challenges around Jekyll specifically. One of those is that on the Service Mesh, the Service Mesh catalog that Aditya was just showing, there's an open challenge he's trying to work through as he iterates over Jekyll data files. In Jekyll as a framework, there's kind of 2 data constructs, if you will, a data file and a collection, and they're really similar. There's slight differences between functions that you're able to perform on either of those 2 data sets. So there's an open challenge, there's a data file manipulation challenge that Meshmate Aditya can describe to you. There's a different open challenge on a Jekyll collection in Meshry docs. in Meshry docs, there's a new compatibility matrix that's being formed now. On the compatibility matrix, it has a collection of all the systems that Meshry is compatible with, integrates with, and it's a self-documenting system that Ashish Tiwari can tell you about. I'm going to call out a current challenge that we have with it. So Meshry supports a bunch of platforms. Well, what version of Docker does it work with? What version of Kubernetes does it work with? Like, has that been tested recently? And what were those test results? Well, there's this new compatibility matrix that's coming out. You can tell it's new because it's kind of ugly. I'm not sure where this is my fault for using this screen. That is nasty. But the matrix, just like these are recently run integration tests. So a PR was merged just earlier on the Nginx adapter. And then a number of different integration tests were run in a GitHub workflow. Those results were published back here and they're up for display. Now, okay, so the Jekyll challenge that comes in here is that these results are stored as a Jekyll collection. You can readily find where that is. But, and so every time that, okay, and so in that Jekyll collection, we don't want to display 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, we don't want to display the result sets for the same component, 25 times. We want to show it just once. So we need to use a simple like group by clause or a where clause. And of the time that I've spent there, I didn't quite crack the code on how to use how to extract that info. So since we had a couple of minutes, I figured I would describe a couple of open challenges that you can go jump into. Did we miss anything today? Did we leave anybody with questions? Happy New Year.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know someone that is like a recent graduate of like design. So she's interested in open source contributing and also on like some kind of mentorship program. Which one should she take a look at?
Yeah, just in
like
general,
low code, no code, but she's
okay.
interested in.
Yeah, in a biased way, I'll respond to that with
like Figma.
Yeah, well, yeah. In part, I thought you were asking like, hey, what community should she go look for? And there's probably a bunch, but like, yeah, actually here in this community, actually there's it's here in Figma. There's a ton to do. As a matter of fact, it's really holding us up. Some of the contributors on the call will tell you just how painful it is that we don't have designs.
The designs, mockups.
Yeah, and we want to overhaul Meshry's UI in the upcoming release. Not everything will go away, but there's a lot of thought that needs to be given to user flows. And yeah, there's an individual in the community who's just jumped in, Kartik Sharma. I don't know if he's on the call or not, but yeah, totally. Like now is a perfect time to jump in. I was just talking with Kartik, I think yesterday, and he was looking for folks to collaborate with. So, and he's cool. Well, he's experienced. I mean,
what's his name? Sorry, I'll just write it up.
Yeah, I popped it into Zoom.
Oh, cool. Thanks. And if she's interested in some kind of stipends, should she look into directly like Layer5 programs or LFX mentorship? Like what's the
both?
Okay.
Sometimes.
So can she apply to both and receive like stipends on both? Like that's kind of like.
Yeah, it would probably be sequential. And like some of the people that have interned for Layer5 or for LFX or for GSOC or for GSOD or for like they'll have done multiple programs with some of the same mentors in the community. So yeah,
Ooh,
they
and
wouldn't.
is that in parallel, like at the same period of time, or?
It's sequential.
Oh, sequential. Okay, cool. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Then I'll just let her
Yeah.
know and get them connected.
That's great. Please do. Yeah. Yeah. There's you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Other comments, questions? Great. And Debopia, did we miss anything today? Is that a wrap?
Yeah, we've covered everything in the minutes today.
Yeah, actually, I just dropped in a quick question in the chat. Like, I just saw something called as cytoscape.js. I searched it on the internet, but wasn't able to understand like what exactly is used for. So maybe can you please elaborate a little bit more on that?
Gaurav or Manav or anybody else want to?
Yep, I can brief it. So Cytoscape.js is a graph manipulation library that is provided by JavaScript. So what Manav was showing in the designer that you people have seen in the MeshMap designer, there we are mostly using Cytoscape.js only. So for managing nodes and all kind of graph manipulation items are handled by Cytoscape only. So yep.
Oh, got it. Thank you so much.
So if anyone else has a question, you can bring them up. Otherwise, I think that's a wrap for today.
Going once? Cool.
Sorry, one more thing. Any
some-
kind of resource? Sorry, any kind of resource to get up to speed on Figma, like for this relative I have.
Yeah, that's a great. There's a ton of resources on. In
Recode Camp.
general. Yeah.
No.
Unlike other. Yeah, it's interesting. Like we've got other tutorials. That makes for a good. You know what? We should
there
put
is
that on.
Sorry,
Yeah,
go
there's a
ahead.
ton of resources for other libraries, other frameworks, other language. But we haven't done. I don't think we have a recorded tutorial on Figma, specifically that tool, which then also touches on a lot of user-centered design, kind of human-centered design techniques and things that we try to employ. I don't think we've recorded one of those. That would, now with Kartik here as well, that's a timely request. Like we should take a note to do that in an upcoming newcomers call. So the answer is, like, the immediate answer is no. I don't think we've published any content yet, but we should probably walk through it. Actually, there is a record. I take it back. There's a recording. I forgot. Yeah, we took like 4 or 5 people through it about 2 months ago. Let me go find that.
Cool, no problem. Okay, then I'll just wait for that. Maybe you could just post it on Slack or.
Sounds good. I'm looking through the YouTube playlist now. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, and actually there was someone yesterday in the newcomers call that was interested in the refactoring UI, but I wasn't able to find the document. Maybe can we push it in the like the newcomers channel for anyone interested?
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
like Google Docs.
Immediate.
Yeah, he was a front end.
Hey, it was me.
and back. Oh, it was you, right, Uttam?
Yeah.
Is that you? Oh, that was you. Yeah, I'm not sure, but you were the same. Uttam. Did I say that right? Is that your name?
Yeah,
Uttam?
almost.
Can you say it so I can pronounce it better?
Yeah, sounds good. Uttam.
Awesome.
Uttam,
Okay.
Uttam. Cool.
Nice. Yeah, he's the one interested, so didn't forget. That's all. Thanks, Lee. Thanks all.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Catch some of you on the Monday websites call. I'll bring my homework. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well,
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.